Hello everyone. Today's part 2 video is Jared Padalecki. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Or his supernatural character Sam Winchester. Last week, as you can see, I drew Jensen Ackles as Dean. So I did some light shading at first and then quickly moved on to his eye. I used the pencil for the detail around the iris and pupil and then used my blending tool to pull out the lead to blend the whole iris. Then I shaded the edges of the eyeball to give the illusion that it is round, and then I went back and used my blending tool for the eye crease and shaded the eyelid up to the eyebrow. While I was staring at this photo for a lengthy amount of time, I noticed both of these actors don't have very prominent eyebrows. It could be the angle of the picture or the lighting, I don't know. A friend who is a fan of the show, Supernatural, asked if I could draw the two brothers for her, so naturally I said sure. I was exceptionally proud of his nose. This was an underside angle of his nose, and I thought I did a good job with the detailing and shading. Look at me go. Okay, so I was curious, and I looked up more pictures of them just now, and it's the angle of the photo. They have eyebrows, everyone. Whew, we can breathe a sigh of relief. So at this point, it's just me going back and forth, staring at them intently. It's odd sometimes when I'm drawing and my husband walks by and I'm like staring intently at pictures of men's faces. And we have a giggle about it. If you haven't seen last week's video, I haven't seen this show. I only watched the pilot like over 10 years ago, and that's it. But the show went on for 15 seasons, so good for them. At the time of me watching the pilot, it was a little too dark for me, and it didn't really hold my interest, but I'm sure now I'd totally be fine with it. I just haven't got the urge to watch this show yet. Sometimes when I'm at this point, I can get real nervous because it doesn't quite look like the person yet. But in this case, I was actually quite pleased. I thought it was looking like him, and my husband had walked by at this time and said, yep, that's looking a lot like him. And so that was very encouraging. And then I moved on to the dreaded second eye. Both of these brothers have horrible second eye angles, and I was like, oh no, this might be bad. Those little pauses you see me doing are quite long pauses of hesitation and me staring at the very zoomed in photo. But it actually went smoothly. I'll admit that doing Jared was a lot easier than doing Jensen. Sometimes that happens with me. I did take art lessons when I was in elementary and middle school. I believe that's when I stopped. Maybe I took a few in high school, but mostly I just drew in my room for fun. I drew a lot. It was kind of before internet is what it is now, so I just put on music and draw. I would take my mom's book covers and redraw them, much like I'm doing now. So I think the majority of my learning experience has been from just doing and practicing. Could I improve? Yeah, but I'm happy with the progress that I've been making, I think. Sam definitely has a lot more scruffles than Dean, so I kept coming back and layering on the shading, so when it came time to come back and do the scruffles, the shading would already be in place. His jawline I was nervous about because when it comes to the 5 o'clock shadow being the jawline as opposed to a clean shaven face, it can be a little tricky for me. So I started the jawline and then moved onto his clothing, adding in different patches of shading to symbolize like the movement and the folds of the piece of clothing. And then a new thing for me was trying to be careful drawing right next to Dean. Haven't dealt with that in a long time, so I was like, okay, don't smear Dean. Don't want to mess him up. And I think his neck turned out pretty well with all the shading. Yeah, this picture turned out really smoothly. There was no real like huge problems or hiccups along the way. And again, I'm applying more shading to his chin and cheek. I work in layers. I tend to draw very lightly and then darken it up as I go. Too many drawings by little me have been ruined when I draw too dark at first, so I'm a very light drawer. Just kind of going back and adding in some details and finishing touches along the way. As I've said in previous videos, as you go, you start to see more and more details, so you gotta kind of have to go back and add in those details. By this time I got to his hair, I was getting a little crazy, so I took a break to come back and finish up his hair. Here I'm darkening his hair next to Jensen to signify that Jared is behind Jensen, as well as Jared's hair is darker in the photo than Jensen's. Hey, I'm saying their names a lot. I listen to different things when drawing, depends on my mood. At this time, I was kind of going back and forth between listening / watching Friends and listening to Steve Perry and Journey. I've been in a very huge Friends and Journey mood, so I've just been going back and forth between the two. The pencils that I used for this drawing were a 0.5 mechanical pencil and then that little broken black pencil, which I sadly dropped and broke, that I've been using for like his hair and the darker spots. It's a graphite pencil. It helps with the really dark sections of a photo or drawing. Those graphite pencils are really fragile. Then I went back with some finishing touches and I signed it. Yay, it's done. I think it turned out pretty good. Hopefully she's watching and thinks so as well. Thanks for stopping by my little corner of YouTube. Stay tuned for next week where I'll be redrawing one of my very old drawings on this channel. I hope you have a wonderful week and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!